The office felt colder than usual. Avery Williams sat at her desk, staring at the email she had just sent her boss, Elliot Grant. It was a simple request. A meeting to discuss her performance, her achievements, and, as she had every right to expect, a raise. After years of hard work, long nights, and countless sacrifices, she felt confident she had earned it. But as she waited for his response, a knot began to form in her stomach. She had seen the way Elliot treated her differently compared to the others, the way his praise always came with an underlying tone of condescension, the subtle way he dismissed her accomplishments. She had worked in this company for over 5 years, and though her work spoke for itself, he never seemed to recognize it. This time, she wasn't going to let it slide. The meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. That afternoon, Avery walked into Elliot's office, her posture straight, her mind focused. She had rehearsed what she was going to say, but she knew deep down that this conversation wasn't going to be easy. Elliot was sitting behind his large, oak desk, his suit jacket neatly draped over the chair. He didn't look up as she entered, his fingers tapping away on his phone, as if she were an afterthought. Avery closed the door behind her and took a seat, the silence between them stretching for a few seconds longer than she was comfortable with. "Elliot," Avery began, her voice calm but firm, "thank you for meeting with me today. As I mentioned in my email, I wanted to discuss my performance and the possibility of a raise." Elliot finally looked up, his expression unreadable, but the slight twitch in his brow told Avery everything she needed to know. He wasn't thrilled. "Sure, Avery," he said, his tone flat. "I've been reviewing your performance, and while I think you're doing fine, I'm not sure it's time for a raise yet. You've been with the company for a while, but your results haven't been as outstanding as some others here." Avery's pulse quickened, but she kept her composure. She had anticipated this. Elliot had always found a reason to downplay her achievements, to undermine her potential. This wasn't about her performance. It was about something much deeper. "Elliot, I've been consistently meeting and exceeding my targets. I've led successful projects, brought in new clients, and I've been commended multiple times by senior leadership. My contributions are clear," Avery said, keeping her tone steady, despite the growing anger inside her. "I believe I've earned a raise." Elliot leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. His eyes narrowed, and for the first time in the conversation, he leaned forward. "Avery, let's not kid ourselves here," he said, his voice lowering slightly. "You're good at what you do, but there's always been something that's held you back. The others in your role have that extra edge, the kind of confidence that makes them stand out." Avery could feel the sting of his words. He wasn't talking about her skills. He was talking about her race. He always found ways to make her feel like she was less than the other employees, less deserving of respect, less deserving of recognition, simply because of the color of her skin. She took a deep breath. "You're saying I don't have the confidence for a raise?" Elliot didn't flinch. "Well, when you're passed over for promotions, when you don't have that natural leadership presence, well, that's what happens." Avery's hands tightened into fists. This wasn't just about a raise. This was about the constant undermining of her worth, the microaggressions, the discrimination that had been happening every day in this company. And today, she was going to confront it head-on. "I've worked harder than anyone else in this department. I've stayed late, taken on extra projects, and delivered results every single time," she said, her voice now steady and commanding. "You don't get to deny me what I've earned because of your personal bias." Elliot's face hardened, but before he could respond, Avery stood up. "I don't expect you to understand," she said, her voice cool and calculated. "But you will understand one thing. I will be filing a formal complaint with HR, and I've already contacted my lawyer. The next step won't be a discussion. It will be a legal battle." For a moment, Elliot just stared at her, disbelief flashing across his face. "You're threatening me?" he spat. "No," Avery said firmly. "I'm holding you accountable." With that, she turned and walked out of the office, leaving Elliot sitting behind his desk, mouth open in shock. Later that evening, Avery's phone buzzed. It was an email from the CEO, David Harrison. He had heard about the incident from HR, and he wanted to meet with her first thing in the morning. The following morning, Avery sat across from David Harrison, her legal team present as well. The meeting room was quiet, the tension palpable. David looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Avery," David began, "I've been informed about what happened with Elliot. I'm deeply disappointed in his behavior. This is not the standard we uphold at this company." Avery nodded, but she didn't speak. "I understand you've reached out to your lawyer," David continued. "We take these matters seriously. I want you to know that we will be investigating this fully." "And what about Elliot?" Avery asked, her voice unwavering. David's gaze hardened. "Elliot has been with the company for over a decade, but his actions are unacceptable. This kind of behavior will not be tolerated. I have already made arrangements for his termination. You should not have had to go through this." Avery felt a weight lift from her shoulders, but she remained calm. Justice was coming. David looked at her with sincerity. "We're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. And as for your raise, it's not just approved. It's more than you asked for. You've earned it." Avery stood up, her legal team nodding in approval behind her. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but filled with empowerment. "I want to make sure that the next person who faces this kind of discrimination knows that they will be heard, and that they will win." As she left the office, Avery felt the weight of the past few months lifting off her shoulders. She had fought for herself, for every person who had ever been silenced or overlooked. She had taken her power back, and she had won. For more chilling stories like this, subscribe to the channel.